Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Tonight on the show, we want you to consider if there is a generational impact to the COVID-19 crisis. Are youth disproportionately disadvantaged by the economic effects of this deepening crisis? We will be speaking to youth representatives from around the country to better understand how youth on the national periphery are faring. First up, joining us on the line now, we have Rosidi Hassan, Deputy Permanent Chairman of the Malaysian Youth Council. Welcome to the show, Rosidi. Thank you for joining us tonight. Now, I wonder whether you think there is a generational impact to the COVID crisis. Are young Malaysians disproportionately vulnerable compared to perhaps others in the labour force, more, say older, more established workers? What do you think, Rosidi?
Yeah, actually, thank you very much for calling, Astro AWANI. Yeah, actually, all the Malaysian affected by the COVID-19 crisis. And as we know, the youth is forming a large group in the human capital in the industry. So for sure, the most affected group is the youngsters or the youth. So as informed by the Bank Negara, they also said that in 2020, it will increase 4% of unemployment into 2020. So here we need to be more concerned on the unemployed group of youth, so that we can help to settle down the issues.
Can I ask you, as permanent chair, or deputy permanent chair of the Malaysian Youth Council, what stories are you hearing? I mean, apart from the Bank Negara reports, through your own organisation, what are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, actually, everybody is affected by the COVID-19 crisis, but the most affected one is the youth group. In this issue, actually, the youth we can group into two categories, where the self-employment group and the salary youth. But both of them are affected by the crisis.
Okay. Well, you're also the chairperson of the Beira District Youth Council, Rosidi. Can I ask you about the locality of the impact of the health and the economic crisis? Perhaps, is there a different impact for areas outside of the Klang Valley and the metropolitan urban areas? Are youth being impacted differently in these areas?
Yeah. Actually, for me, the youth cannot be too choosy to select the job. Maybe they have to understand and accept that the job is very limited now, and maybe they will get below salary. But they have also to know they are right doing the job. And also in the urban area, the youth also affected, but not too much compared to the city area.
Rosie,
but we have planned several programs and collaboration with our parliamentarian, Dr. Sri Ismail Sabri, to work out for the job opportunity for the youth group.
Rosidi, what are the strategies that young people are employing? Apart from going to government, are they seeking help from their own families? What kind of social and safety nets are there for them?
Actually, in this current situation, most of them are doing, 2-3 jobs in time. So maybe because of the selling is dropped, and maybe because of other causes. So we have to in this moment we have to teach them, and we have to let them skill with the online business, because we know during the MOC period the online business is go higher is compared to the normal business. So maybe we will focus on that.
Rosidi, that 2-3 jobs sounds like a heavy burden to carry, especially for the younger generation. Have you sensed dissatisfaction or perhaps a sense of despair coming from the younger people, especially in the area of Bera, or to the people that you've spoken to?
In Bera, actually, they're still doing their job, and maybe the effect is not so much, not so clear right now. But maybe in 2-3 months ahead, they will face the challenge of the maybe the sales, and also the new normal of the current situation of COVID. So they have to prepare for that.
Rosi, what kind of jobs? Can you help us understand where Bera is and what is the economy there? What exactly are the kinds of jobs available to young people in the area of Bera, and are those threatened by the impending recession?
In Bera, normally they're doing the farming job and the services job. And in this current situation, I see most of them take the opportunity to become the delivery, to take part into the delivery service. So that this is a new opportunity for the youth, to get their income.
Right. You touched a little bit earlier about the aid or the help that young people are getting. I want to look at the Bantuan Prihatin National Relief Package. I mean, in that package, there were some interventions targeting young people, but not very much. I mean, there was the student loan deferment. There was that one-off 200 ringgit payment for all post-secondary students. That was all part of, and also there was young people got to be part of the Prihatin cash transfer. Can I talk to you about whether that's enough? I mean, is that enough to help young people overcome some of the economic uncertainty that they're facing at the moment?
Yeah, actually, we thank you to the government to give a lot of assistance to the youth group and also the Malaysians as general, because at least with this assistance, with the Prihatin National and all that, they get some cash, for the daily use. But for the next 2 months ahead, I think they have to think of the new normal or new strategy to get more income and sustain their life.
So what is it that the youth need right now? I mean, apart from this short-term cash assistance, what do the younger generation need right now?
Now, they hope that they can start working as usual, but they have to understand that because we are fighting the virus that we cannot see. So the government has outlined the new normal, how to run the business and all that. So I think maybe in 1 or 2 months ahead, they will be familiar with the new norms. And still, I can say that the best business for the youth group now is online business, because it's equal with those, not the youth group. Also, they also have to focus on this new normal.
All right, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight, Rosidi. After this, we'll hear from a youth representative from Sabah. So stay tuned to consider this.
Cynthia, Bajai okey tak?
Okey dah, kita dah live ni.
Okey, nak live.
Penjarakan sosial, please.
Okey, stand by anytime now.
Tahun ini, semuanya lain.
Dari cara kita sambut raya, hinggalah cara kita menerbitkan rancangan.
Jangan lupa saksikan kami dengan tetamu-tetamu istimewa jam 9 malam
di saluran 501 dan semua platform digital Astro AWANI.
Kami di Astro AWANI mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri.
Hi, if you've just joined us, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris, with me, Sharad Kuttan. Are youth being disproportionately affected by the socio-economic disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic? Let's continue the conversation. Joining us on the line now, we have Farid Sainuri, President of the Sabah Youth Council. Farid, good evening. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Melissa.
Could you begin, Farid, by sharing some of the realities of perhaps the hardships that young Sabahans are facing as a result of the pandemic? I mean, what have you heard and observed?
Yeah, I'm quite sure that there are not much difference between Sabahan youth and the Malaysian youth throughout the nation. Of course, the impact is certainly not only on economic side, but also psychologically and the well-being of the youth itself. Not only because of the impact on economy, but also their well-being, because everything is affected, starting from their employment and their education, and it's a cascading effect, a domino effect is going on. I would say it like that.
Right, Farid, you know, before we had the crisis, we already had particular problems for youth across the nation. We had very high unemployment figures for graduate youth, for instance, and so on and so forth. What were the specific problems of Sabahan youth even before the crisis, and have they become worse as a result of the crisis?
Yeah, of course, even before the crisis started, everyone knows that Sabah is one of the states in Malaysia that are really relying on services industries and the tourism. Tourism is one of the top 5 revenues of our state. So when this pandemic comes to the nation, of course the employment is affected, and the new job opportunities also affected. So we can say that the new fresh grads are not getting jobs. And the current one that are still working also is not is being laid off, and some of the youth that are involved in the gig economy also, they are also getting half of their payment prior to a pandemic of COVID-19. So it has really affected us, especially in the services industry, that the pillar of economy in Sabah.
Okay. So how have young Sabahans responded to the job losses? What are they doing in the meantime?
We can surely say that the various what do we say, efforts that they've done. They do 2 to 3 jobs in the same time, but also they try to minimize their, for those that are doing their own businesses, of course they are cutting their overhead costs. Some of them are no longer working from home, but also their offices they're converting their homes into offices.
Right.
So, and the worst part is some of the youth in Sabah are also involved in ecotourism and agriculture. So when we said on tourism, of course, when we can no longer travel, it impacted the industry so bad, and it's really affecting the youth.
Farid, I want to ask you about, I mean, the nature of Sabah. Sabah is a very large state. You know, cities, and you have rural interiors. Do you see or have evidence of people moving back to their villages, moving back to places where there's land they could at least, you know, farm? What kind of new phenomena do you observe happening in Sabah?
I would say that because most of the job opportunities, even though we can say that in Kota Kinabalu itself, the job opportunity is not the same, not as many as the ones in Klang Valley, for an example. So when we compare between Kota Kinabalu and the rural areas, of course, some of them that are previously working in the city, they have to go back to their villages, right? Because they no longer have jobs in the city, because they are being laid off. And they started to initiate their own initiatives in their own kampong. But we really need assistance and facilitation from the government, so it can to minimize the impact of when they need to start everything from scratch.
Right. You know, Farid, just before this, you were talking to a youth representative from Borough, and he also mentioned that youth there are also, you know, working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet. And you're echoing the same, that young Sabahans are having to work 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Have young Sabahans been receiving aid, you know, not just from, say, the federal government, but from, say, state governments or even NGOs? How are they getting help?
Of course, there are assistance from the government, be it from the federal or the state side. But from my point of view, from our point of view of Sabah Youth Council, we need more assistance and facilitation, of course, because not only we need once-off cash, but also we need a holistic facilitation. Of course, when we said the word Sabah, it's a huge state involving 29 districts. So we need a proper, when we said new norm and whatnot, it is about marketing their products, their new businesses via online. But when we said about online, not all states, not all districts got a proper line compared to the Kota Kinabalu side and the other big cities in Sabah. So it is not about once-off assistance, but it's also a holistic ecosystem how the government can help the youth so they can start fresh and start new.
Farid, what about the question of undocumented individuals, young people, you know, because their families have come over, whatever reasons, they don't have proper papers. How are they coping when they're not in the system and government's unlikely to assist non-citizens? What do you see happening on that score?
Yes, that is why when we launched the humanitarian initiative called Dapur Belia, we also include all these undocumented person, undocumented families to receive our aid because we know that this time during COVID-19 pandemic, they don't have jobs because some of them are working in the labor side and working in the dangerous side. But during the pandemic, they can no longer working. That is why youth NGO and other charities NGO are working on this undocumented people, undocumented person.
Well, Farid, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. It's been a pleasure and enlightening. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to take a quick break. More on Consider This in just a few minutes. Stay tuned.
Cynthia, Majai okey tak?
Okey dah, kita dah live ni.
Okey, nak live.
Penjarakan sosial, please.
Okey, stand by anytime now.
Tahun ini, semuanya lain. Dari cara kita sambut raya, hinggalah cara kita menerbitkan rancangan.
Jangan lupa saksikan kami dengan tetamu-tetamu istimewa jam 9 malam
di saluran 501 dan semua platform digital Astro AWANI.
Kami di Astro AWANI mengucapkan Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri.
Bagaimana sambutan raya anda tahun ini?
Jangan risau, jangan ke sana ke sini kerana kami akan bawakan pada anda seleksi cerita-cerita menarik
pada Syawal pertama
dan kedua
dalam Gala Aidilfitri.
Raya tahun ni, bulan puasa tahun ni, it's a blessed one lah untuk saya.
Alhamdulillah Datuk Jamal sudi untuk berduet lagi lepas ni.
Panjut kita panggil panjut. Panjut tu pelita.
Oh, pelita.
Nak ceritakan tentang pengalaman kan?
Betul.
Ya, anak di perantauan. Jadi, saya pernah
satu ketika saya beraya di Kuala Lipis sampai 3-4.
Thank you for staying with Sharad and I on Consider This. Joining us on the line now, we have Aus Karni, President of the East Coast Green Initiative, which is an environment-centered youth NGO. Aus, good evening. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Now, I understand you work closely with young Malaysians and that you're based in Dungun, Terengganu. How have the effects of the crisis on the youth in your area been? Could you share a little bit of what you've observed? Aus, are you there? Do we have Aus on the line? We will try and get Aus
Yeah, okay, we'll try and get him back. Melissa, I mean, I think it's fascinating, right? Because one of the things that we have, is actually a picture of Malaysia that's quite diverse and spread out. And we've just heard from, Farid Said Nuri from Sabah. And it was very interesting for him to kind of help us understand there the options for young people, in fact, is to go back to your villages, go back to a place where you don't have to pay for rent and, water's free and perhaps even food and so on available.
Well, I think what we're trying to do on the show tonight is to give voice, to hear the voices of youth that are living outside of the Klang Valley. A lot of focus has been on what do youth need in urban areas, and rightly so, because there are pockets of very vulnerable younger generation within urban areas. But also we want to know what are the kind of aspirations and the difficulties that youth in areas that are not, are perhaps slightly more rural or outside of metropolitan urban areas.
In fact, we just got Aus Karni back on the line.
Hi, Aus, are you on the line with us? Okay. I'm going to ask my question again. I want to know, you're in Dungun, Terengganu. I want to know what the effects have been on the youth in your area, your observations of the impact of the COVID-19 crisis.
Hi, Melissa. Good evening.
Yes. What are your observations, Aus? What impact on the youth in your area?
Okay, I would like to start by highlighting there's been numerous economic analysts expecting the worst economic recession in our history, which will in turn translate into the rise of unemployment rate. I think the number one concern of the youth, doesn't matter if they're in rural areas or in the major cities, is the job opportunities out there for them. I think many elders are advising the youth to start their own business in this challenging economy. But let's look at the stimulus package announced by the government.
Yeah, also, if you could just help us understand what you are observing in Dungun, Terengganu. What is it that's specific to your area, to the East Coast, and the experience of the crisis in the East Coast?
Sorry, sir, I can't hear you clearly, sir.
Let me just repeat my question. What are you observing in Dungun, in Terengganu, in the East Coast? Rather than, the national picture, what do you see that's specific to what's happening there?
Specifically to Dungun, is it?
Yes, and the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, sure, sorry. Okay. If I could give you an example, the food delivery like Food Panda and Grab Food, they always focus on the major cities, and there's not much of this reach to the rural areas. So what I see from my environment in Dungun, the youngsters start their own food delivery apps. We have Ganu Shop in Terengganu, which provide a platform for the Bazaar Ramadan online. And we have mypasar.com in Kelantan, an initiative by the youngsters too, to help the assisting the business transaction online.
Well, even before the COVID crisis, youth have been facing quite a tough labour market, and wages have been low for a while. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the issues have been for young people even before the COVID-19 pandemic? Aus, are you there? I think we've lost him again.
Yeah, Melissa, it's very interesting.
Oh, there you are.
Are you back with us?
Sorry, can you?
Sure, I can repeat. I just wanted to say that the challenges that young people face have been around long before the COVID-19 crisis. So I want you to kind of break it down for us, specifically for Dungun, for the East Coast. What have been some of the issues that young people face in that area?
Well, Melissa, I think we've lost him again. But, you know, it comes back to this, you know, to a conversation we had yesterday with Lawrence Todd of the Institute of Democracy and Economics, who really laid out the fact that, well, it's in his opinion that, you know, that this crisis really cuts across the board in demographic terms.
Right. So he's saying that there's not so much of a generational impact.
That's right. That's
fact,
his opinion, right?
That if, in fact, it hits everyone across the board. However, if we contrast that to, say, anecdotal evidence from Charles Santiago, MP of Klang, who says that in his constituency, he's seeing that those in the 20 to 30 age bracket are the ones impacted the most. They are the ones being laid off first, so the last one's in, but the first one's out. And we also had notes from other economists who say that, in fact, there is a real generational impact. In fact, the younger Malaysians will really feel an indelible imprint of the COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, and it might be also about the future, I guess. Oh, but we have Aus back on the line.
Do we have Aus back on the line?
Aus, the question to you was, what kinds of problems did the young people of the East Coast, what were the challenges for them even before this crisis?
I think the challenge, one of the challenges is we can see clearly right now I don't have a good internet connection.
As evident by tonight's challenges.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the challenges. And I think there's a lot of government fund and allocation, but it focuses on the major cities like Kuala Lumpur and Klang Valley. And I think there should be more power and access to the state level, because the state level understand the root cause of the problem in the East Coast.
Okay, can you talk to us a little bit about that? What are the root causes?
Like I mentioned before, maybe the good line access of internet, and then a lot of facilities, infrastructures, and job opportunities.
Okay. So the lack of job opportunities. Do you see any kind of self-help initiatives coming out during this crisis?
Sure. Do
you see any attempts to, you know, regardless of whether government comes in, to help themselves? Are there any self-help initiatives?
Okay, all right. Unfortunately, I think we are suffering quite a fair bit of technical difficulties.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. But thank you, Aus, for speaking with us and joining us and giving us a perspective of what's happening with the younger generation on the East Coast, specifically in Dugun, Terengganu. That's all the time we have for you on this episode of Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuzan, signing off for this evening.
And we'd like to wish you Selamat Hari Raya and have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for watching and good night.